Hello and welcome to Togetherness Media. I'm Anika Kulander, your host for this evening. Now, being a parent can be one of the most challenging and rewarding things that someone can do. And there's one age group in particular that can be particularly tricky to parent. You know what I'm talking about, teenagers. Now, share Togetherness Media with all of your friends and remember to subscribe to watch all of our content for free in 2021. Now, to help us talk about parenting and teenagers, please welcome clinical psychologist Dr. Kade. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kade.
Hi, Anika. How are you? How is
Hi.
everything going tonight?
Yes, things are
Thank
going.
God we don't have any issues now except teens.
Exactly. Now, teens oftentimes pose a big problem or a big challenge for parents, and I think it's because they're going through a lot developmentally. Can you tell us what some of these changes might be for them?
And the reason I picked this topic tonight was because I'm seeing a 31% rise in hospital visits by teenagers because of anxiety, depression, and a lot of other issues. And of course, most of it is because of the pandemic. So there is a 31% rise this year alone since January. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to maybe touch base on this and hopefully help parents navigate through what they're experiencing with their teens and hopefully help them out so they can explore other options as opposed to just telling them what to do and then moving on. Teenagers are like, to me, teenagers are a little bit like toddlers. You know how between 10 to 12 months, kids try to use their motor skills, gross motor skills, and start walking. And then they, as they stand up, they fall, they stand up again, they fall again. Teens, when they reach the adolescent age, which I'm talking about between the age of 13 through 16, 18, around that time, there is a area of cognitive complex. Cognitive complex means they're going through a lot of emotional development, a lot of thought development, thought process, and they're trying to find their place in the world, right? And they're also going through a lot of hormonal changes and sexual development. So if somebody comes out and tells me teens, they have no challenge, the only challenge they have is actually school, I would call that a myth. That is not true at all. Actually, they have more challenge than adults do, by far. So let's put that out there. They're coming to the sexual maturation. They're coming to physical maturation. They have hormonal changes. They have to fit into the society with friends. They have the social media pressure. They have drug issues, alcohol issues, God knows what else. A lot of psychological issues that they're experiencing now. It's not just because of the COVID. They have had this before, but COVID obviously has made that a little bit more challenging and more difficult because they have lost their social connection. They don't have that social connection they had before. They don't have the school setting that they had before. So it's a little bit different for them right now.
So for a teenager that you're in this age where you're trying to figure out your place in the world and you're going through all of these hormones and experiencing all of these changes, for them not to have that social network is then particularly damaging because they don't have that sort of feedback loop to process. So what's something that parents can do to support them in this time, especially for a teenager who might just be home all day long, maybe on their phones, not really engaging, because 31%, that's quite a lot. So what do you think parents can do?
I think one of the first things that I always suggest to the parents is to make sure you change your own thought process. Thinking that the kids don't have anything to worry about is wrong. That's number one, because once you realize they actually do have a lot of challenges in their life, then you have a better understanding for the kids, for their age group, because obviously it is difficult for parents to understand between age 10 and 13, there is a huge difference, right? Age 10 to 12 is when you start processing and developing and becoming more mature. So you're basically processing information and coming to your collective consciousness. But when you reach age 13, there comes the hormonal changes as well. So there are other changes that you're experiencing as a teen. So then you have to understand the truth behind this is their life is very challenging. Once we accept that and understand that, then comes the second stage. What do we do in this turmoil that they're going through, right? So first thing and foremost is listening to them without criticism. I always suggest to people the best thing you can do for them when they come to share something with you or you're questioning them about something, do not question to criticize. Question and ask open-ended questions so you can understand. Listen to understand, not listen to respond. Listening to respond to them is going to make them feel bad. It's going to make them feel guilty. They're going to think that you think that they're stupid. They don't know any better. And obviously, we all know when the kids come to those ages, they think they know everything, right? It is best not to tell them that you don't, but share your own experiences, your own thoughts about the topic, and do not criticize them, put them down. Also, pick your battle. Do not engage into every little thing. I have seen parents, they come around and they see the kid on the phone, put that phone away, put this down, put that over there, put this over here, stop doing that, start doing this. You're going to make them crazy. Imagine if somebody would do that to you, you would lose your mind, right? So that's another thing. We need to make sure that we treat them the way we want to be treated. You want to be treated nice. You want it to be treated with kindness. You want to be respected. You want to be listened to. That is exactly what they want as well. They don't want anything different than what you want. They want you to guide them. They don't want you to give them a command. Let's say that you're right. Let's say you go to work and somebody gives you a command at work or gives you an order. That's because in that environment, that person is actually your boss. Unfortunately, parents sometimes feel that they're the boss, that they have to give commands day in and day out. Like from the morning, get up, brush your teeth, do this, get to school, come back, do your homework. It's going to drive them crazy. Your job is to guide them. You're supposed to be a gardener here, cut those bad branches a little bit. And the last thing that I'm going to say, at least on this, be a good role model yourself, because oftentimes parents criticize and they give commands and orders and they and requests to kids to do, but they don't do none of it themselves. So if the kid is looking at your reflection, if you tell the kids, please make sure that you get enough sleep, but you're out there partying all night yourself, and you don't even come home to check on them, that's bad parenting. If you're drinking yourself during the pandemic, every night you have 2-3 drinks and you tell them, make sure you never drink, that's never going to work, right? So that's bad parenting and bad modeling. I always say, if you want them to see you as a parent, you have to be a parent. That means model the parenting style that you want them to show to you. I hope that makes sense. Absolutely. And obviously, make sure you buy them good friends. Buy them good friends. Means even if you have to pay to take a friend to... I'm not kidding. If you have to pay to take a friend to lunch or dinner so that you can keep that good person, a good friend, keep them close to your kids, do that. Buy that kid.
I've never heard of that before, but that's really, really a smart way, because sometimes as a parent you can't connect to your child in that peer-to-peer way because that's not your relationship. So it's definitely important for you to find those people that can help support your child when you're not there.
Absolutely. When I say buy a good friend, means you need to make sure that they're surrounded by people who actually demonstrate that within that age group, they can bring out the best out of your child. That's what I'm trying to say. That they can, if you want your child to study, don't pick them friends that are always playing with their phone, right? Pick friends that are actually paying attention. You will know that those friends are actually paying attention to their school. They're thinking about their future. They're thinking, I'm going to become somebody. I want to make something out of myself. That's the friend you want to have close to your kids. The friend that does take care of their own physical health, mental health, is the one you want to keep next to your child, right? Absolutely. That's very important. And another thing that I think is very important is, if you get into confrontation with your children, please do not go crazy. Remain calm. It is extremely important for them to see, again, modeling. What you want to see in them, you need to model that. If you lose your cool and start going crazy, they're going to start going crazy at some point. If they don't at age 13, because of what they're learning from you, they will do it at age 16. So you got to make sure you remain calm, pick a battle. At the early age, talk about sex and drugs and other issues in the society. I know some people have an issue with some of this stuff because obviously to some of us, this is crazy. Like, how can I talk to my kids? If you can't do that, make sure you put them in a situation where they can learn that, whether that's that is buying a book or finding a YouTube channel that is done by a professional psychologist. Take them to a psychologist, take them to an educator, so they can know about all of this. Because once they become more mature and they become more sexually active, they need to know how to protect themselves. They need to know how to protect someone else, how to be safe. And that's what you want. That's the main goal. And obviously, I know this is very
consent and stuff like that. You know, especially if you're the parent of a guy, like, you need to teach them how to be respectful and how to ask for consent to make sure that, you know, you're having a mutually agreed upon encounter.
Absolutely. You don't act on your hormones. You use your brain.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that was a lot of really, really helpful information. Just to recap all of that, because it was a lot. Some good listening skills is really important for parents. For them to potentially even buy friends for their kids as support systems, to not just give commands and
guide.
Yes, that's all very, very valuable. I'm wondering though, for a parent who might be listening, who's like, oh, I've done these things, I've just yelled at my kids, I've told them what to do because, you know, I still think they're a kid, I'm forgetting that they're, you know, now coming to their own and stuff like that. Say that there's maybe a lack of trust now between the kid and the parent, where the kid doesn't really feel like the parent is on their side, or that communication has broken down. What do you think is one of the first things that a parent can do then to try and repair that relationship?
Depends on what kind of a parenting we're talking about. If we're talking about a single parent, it's a totally different story than a parent with two parents in the same household, right? So it makes a huge difference. We can sometimes use the other parent to hopefully close the divide, close the gap, and bring the child closer. And then the best thing to do is not to start criticizing again, but to start listening and understanding. It is very easy for us to get frustrated and go crazy. We have to all remember, we were all teenagers at one point. We were all crazy. We have all done crazy stuff. There is no, it's true. Most of us have. We just forgot, right? Because so many years has passed. I'm going to be 53 next week. A lot of time has passed, so I don't remember about my own crazy stuff unless I seriously sit down and think about it. But I always remember about other teenagers' crazy stuff. Why? Because I see it, but I don't see my own. That happened many years ago. We have to realize they're going to be okay. Nothing serious is going to happen to them if they're not doing something that out of the ordinary, like they're not doing drugs, or they're not addicted to something, or dropped out of school and ended up on the street or something. So everything else can be resolved. What I suggest is pick up a book, read about it. Don't assume that I know. It's not a knowing, because oftentimes parents think, I have learned, I became an engineer, I became somebody important, my parents taught me this, I'm going to teach this to my kids. Remember, there is a huge difference between you and your child. You're in a totally different generation. Now they're exposed to so much more that you may not have been exposed at the time you were in that age group.
And a lot of that has to do with maybe social media as well.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. A lot of exposure.
That really affects this generation, and there's a lot of social pressures and social etiquette and things that happen online when their kids are looking in their cell phones that the parents have no idea. They just never existed.
They have no clue what the kid is. Absolutely. And the other thing that I wanted to share is, because this is what I'm seeing recently, for the parents who are single parents, let's say they're living in two different households, and maybe the child lives majority with one parent and visits the other parent. Please, 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 I cannot say this enough. If you do not want your child damaged, please do not take the battle you have with your ex-spouse and try to put the child in the middle of that fight and argument, or use them as a pawn to gain control or advantage. What do I mean by that is, please do not talk behind the other parent's back. That would immediately cause serious harm to the child. If it doesn't do it at this age, it will do it at a later time. Make sure that you're always honest with them. Keep your word. Don't lie, because if you lie, that's what you're basically example. You're becoming an example of a liar. They will lie to you if you do that, right? Keep your word. Be honest. It is extremely important. I cannot stress this enough. Keeping your word to the child is important, because at one point you want to come back and tell them, you told me you finished your homework. You told me you did this. You told me that you studied for your driving class. You don't want them to come back and say, well, yeah, maybe I didn't tell the truth. Maybe I lied. But you lie all the time. Let me tell you, when you lied, right? You don't want to do that. So you want to make sure you do not example anything you don't want to see in your own kids. Now, they may lie, but if they constantly see you being in the right and telling the truth, eventually they will gravitate towards that. And believe me, they become much more honest with you.
I like this idea of treating the child with respect, and instead of the hierarchical system that we like to think of, where the parent has all the power and the control and the child has none. If you treat your child like a human being with the same decency and respect and honesty, and you trust that they're able to understand what you're saying and trust that they're able to make their own decisions, and you can help guide them when maybe they're thinking, because their judgment is not quite developed yet, when their thinking is a little bit off, and just veer them into the right path. It seems like a good building block for a healthy relationship, both in the moment and also in the future for that child.
Absolutely, because when they're younger, we have a lot of control, right? Let's say the child is 8. You have so much control. You can change their school, you can change the way they sleep, you can change their room, you can buy them different type of clothes. When they're 15, you probably have less than 10% control over your child. So what you have actually instilled in them in the past 15 years is what counts. You cannot start at age 15 and try to mold them and change them. You should have done that way before. And that's when some people, I end up, before the COVID, I would end up in a party and I would ask, and the parent was complaining about the child. He doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. And here is 2 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the week, and this person is with me drinking vodka, for example. And I'm thinking, who is at home taking care of that child while you're here? You got to think about that. So are you taking care of your own responsibility, or you just like to criticize and just give command and orders and expect the child to follow?
So we have about 3 minutes left. I'd like to address your original concern about the 31% increase in anxiety and depression. Just in 1 minute, like how can parents maybe help add a little bit of support system where it's missing from friends, or what can parents do about that?
Okay. In general, a lot of the kids right now, they have a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression. Part of it is because of the home environment, because they're constantly at home with whoever else is in the home, and they get into battles and challenges and confrontations, right? They have pick up your pants, go sit down and study, do this and that. You drive them crazy. You need to slow down, step back, and like I said again, do not pick every battle and make it into a war. Pick the battle that is very important. Not everything should be a battle. You have to step back and let them live their lives. The other thing that is important is, unfortunately, some kids right now are using prescription drugs. They're using marijuana. They're using other kinds of drugs, and they're hiding it from parents. They drink alcohol. They hide it from the parents. That we have a high rate of that, in alarming rates, actually, especially here in California. We have to be aware of that. We have to start talking to them about it at the earlier age, hopefully. And if you can't win that battle, if you can't stop them from doing it, that's when you need to go to a professional and see if you can get someone else to do that for you. Because at that age, if you get into a battle with your child, they will shut you down. They will walk away from you, and they won't listen to you. But if you bring a professional into the picture, it might help.
Yeah, well, maybe as you say, if they're turning to drugs or something like that, you as a parent, instead of saying this is wrong, this is bad, which it is, they can come from an understanding of why is this child turning to this, like what is going on in their lives that makes it difficult, that they feel like they need this, and maybe that will help the parent get a little further.
Exactly. That's when we
Yes.
have to listen, not listen to respond.
Exactly, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kate. I think you've shared
My
a lot
pleasure.
of very, very valuable information that a lot of parents are going to hugely benefit from for a problem that's very relevant right now. So thank you so much for being on
Thank
the
you.
show.
I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
All right, you too. Thank you all
Good to
so
see you.
much
Bye bye.
for watching Togetherness Media. I'm Anika Kulander, and I'm so pleased to have hosted this evening for you today. Remember, share with all of your friends and subscribe to watch Togetherness Media for free in 2021. All right, have a nice day.